In 1964, the Australian destroyer, the Voyager, sank after a collision with the flagship. 82 men were killed. 5 years later, 74 American sailors died after the Melbourne collided with the USS Frankie Evans. Courts of inquiry revealed that in neither case was the Melbourne at fault. So is the Melbourne a rather dangerous joke? Weekend magazine reporter Prakash Merchandani went with the ship on a recent exercise.
Name, HMAS Melbourne. Number, CVS 21. Light fleet carrier, formerly the HMS Majestic. Transferred from the Royal Navy on the 27th of October, 1955. Ship's complement, 1,335 sailors and officers, and 1 grunt, an Army gunnery officer to direct air support in wartime. 25 years ago, she first entered Sydney Harbour to patriotic headlines. She was then known as the Cupid ship, from the number of men who took British wives when they went to pick her up. Since then, the Melbourne has steamed a distance of over 750,000 miles. Her engines have laboured for over 60,000 hours. It's a 1940s ship, trying to cope with 1980s technology. She's old, nearly geriatric, should have been scrapped years ago. Yet at the end of this year, the Melbourne is to go for another refit, another facelift, to keep her going for 5 more years. The cost will be $9 million to the taxpayer. Any aircraft carrier moves with a task force. It's a floating aerodrome which has to be protected from air attack or from submarines. This trip is largely a flag-waving exercise. For a few days, the destroyer escorts will be with the Melbourne for maneuvers. Then they'll part company, and the old lady will visit Manila, Singapore, and Hong Kong, ports where she's familiar and popular. There'll be open days on the ship and new friends to make. If she is accident-prone, it's because she's old. Even the strongest metal does fatigue in time. The cramped living conditions below decks, the habitability of the ship, as it's called, is a rude shock. Narrow, cluttered passageways with maintenance work constantly in progress. Yet, in a perverse sort of way, the whole ship is a challenge to its crew. They're proud of the efficiency with which they can keep grandma going. For the sailors, it's tiered bunks and make and mend. When they want to watch the ship's closed-circuit television, the bunks are folded up, lie on the floor. Movies like Apocalypse Now are a big draw. They keep up their skills in running an aircraft carrier in the knowledge that with the help of God and the Defense Department, probably in that order, they'll have a new carrier by 1985. In the engine room, the noise is staggering. Without earplugs, you'd go deaf very quickly. Melbourne's thermometers still read Fahrenheit. The temperature averages around the 120 mark. Near the equator, it's been known to reach 140. Shifts are 4 hours on, 8 hours off. The men drink about 3.5 litres of water per ship to replace the fluid they've sweated out. It's a challenge to keep the boilers going. The fuel tanks have spurted many leaks, and that's one of the many patch-up jobs that the refit is going to have to do. It's not any one major thing that needs to be replaced. It's a whole host of minor ones. The hull is sound, but rust on the interior fittings is endemic. Till the refit, the sailors carry on with the Navy idiom. If it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint over it. And in the meantime, it's scrub away while the birdies play above. The birdies are the men of the Fleet Air Arm. They maintain the helicopters and fly the Grumman tracker aircraft, the eyes and ears of the ship. They can remain airborne on patrol for up to 10 hours. The trick is to fly by mirror. The lights, reflected by a mirror landing aid, give the pilot the correct line of approach to fly onto the deck. The mirror can be set for the pilot to catch a given arrestor wire. The accuracy required is very fine. A couple of feet to the right or left, and men on deck could be killed, or the aircraft smash into the bridge. The deck, after all, was built for a much smaller and slower generation of aircraft. And when it's heaving, an aircraft being buffeted by high winds, there's skill and coordination required with a landing officer on deck who talks the aircraft down. The arrestor gear, like the catapult, is getting old. It needs a total overhaul. It's the very age of the mechanism which has caused previous accidents. So, for the time being, only the slow aircraft like the trackers can land on the deck. That's not to say that if there were a war on, the jets could not land. But, say the officers, it's silly to risk accidents on exercises. Overnight, the ship runs into rough seas in Bass Strait. Flying is suspended for the day. An aircraft carrier with the birdies grounded leads to hours of frustration. Flying resumes in the cold light of dawn, with the wind whipping along the flight deck. The steam catapult is to be tried out. The Wessex helicopters on board hover alongside while flying operations are in progress. They're part of the search and rescue side of the ship's team. Should an accident occur, the pilot has 3 minutes in the water before he starts freezing to death. The rescue drill is tight and discipline on deck rigid. From the bridge, the officers keep watch on the weather and the ship's speed. Morale again is high, but despite that, the Melbourne, like the rest of the Navy, is being bled of experienced men. It's not only get out of the service and double your money, it's the demand for recompense for long months at sea and soaring inflation at home. What other problems does the ship's captain have? Commodore Mike Hudson.
Well, I think it's true to say that the greatest challenge I have are those of the people problems. We have 1,000 people on board, and you can equate that to a small town. We have to produce our own water, our own electricity. We have our own sewerage system on board. We have a bakery. We have a doctor, dentist, chaplains, and all this brings with it all the personal problems that you would get in any community, which are exacerbated, of course, by our relative isolation and the need to live together in a very tightly knit community.
Well, critics might, of course, say that the Melbourne is very expensive in using so much manpower, which could be used in other parts of the Navy, perhaps more usefully. What would your answer be to that?
Melbourne is expensive in the use of manpower. She's an old ship, and old ships are manpower intensive. But I think what has to be remembered is that Melbourne is the core of the Navy. We are organised around the Fleet Air Arm. Therefore, I would say that our use of manpower is in fact cost effective.
Have you ever been worried about morale on board ship?
not this ship, never.
Gunnery practice with the ancient 40-60 Bofors is a bit of a formality. These weapons are not much of a match for today's fighters. The gunners have the same problems as the rest of the service. Pay is taxed even when they're overseas. We love the service, they said, but if the Defense Department want to keep us, they better get off their butts and make it worthwhile. Meanwhile, the real teeth of the Melbourne can only pay her a flying visit from their base at Nowra. The A4 Skyhawks practice touch and go to keep what's termed the state-of-the-art alive. They'll be able to operate from the flight deck only after the refit. The Skyhawks are the aircraft which give the Melbourne its long, striking arm. Melbourne's replacement in 1985 will only have helicopters to start with. The commander of the fleet says that's not good enough. Meanwhile, the old flagship steams on. She'll spend the whole of next year in refit, be given a few more teeth, and then go back to showing the flag again. To the men on board, she's not a joke, but a challenge.